Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day, and I hope that you got a chance to check out the video from yesterday, because in that video, I give information about a contest that I'm going to be doing. That's right, I'm going to be giving away $200 in gift cards to 2 lucky winners. Go ahead and check that video out, or you can stick around after this video, and I will give you details on how to enter and how to win. Well, guys, we have had a very busy 24 hours. We have an official response from Iran and a counter response from the U.S. administration. That's right, President Trump actually de-escalating in the face of what took place yesterday in Iraq. We also unfortunately have a plane crash that took place in Iran. It was a Ukrainian plane. Looks like there was a lot of academics and different types of people on it. We do have the passenger manifest, and I know that a lot of Anons are digging on that manifest right now to determine exactly who those people were and why they might have been flying between Ukraine and Iran. Very interesting, the fact that it's Ukraine and Iran. Those two countries in particular are pretty big in the news right now. We've also got reports of earthquakes in Iran, which is another very strange coincidence, and also very strange because of where the earthquakes took place. And it looks like the U.S. may have had some forewarning in relation to that attack on the Iraqi airbase yesterday. And finally, it appears that Christopher Steele has been officially caught lying. That's right, guys, we have the evidence, and we're going to go over all of it here in just a moment. Please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor. Did you guys know that your assets are not actually yours when times get tough? Well, the Wall Street Journal recently reported on 2 hedge funds that are in big trouble. These funds look after billions of dollars in client money, but these same 2 funds are refusing to let investors get their money back. This is going to be happening more and more as things begin to implode. So where is your savings? Do you have the permission to ask for them back? Well, if you don't have control of your money when things start to get tough, you're in trouble, and Noble Gold has the answer. A precious metal IRA with Noble Gold will let you have real hold on your own assets, because they're yours, always yours. Not bits of paper, not promises, not excuses. Precious metal returns are set to explode over the next few years. So if you get in touch with Noble Gold and discover how you can keep your money safe when you need it, all you need to do is give them a call at 877-646-5347, or go to noblegoldinvestments.com and let them know that Red Pill 78 sent you. Or you can always hit the link below and get the free gold and silver investment guide. Once again, that's 877-646-5347. Tell them Red Pill 78 sent you, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Alright, guys, you're about to see the video that I made. I actually made it 3 times because as I was putting it together, the information coming out about this tragedy in Iran was ever evolving. So you're going to see in real time as the theory about what happened evolved and we get to the answer. So don't go anywhere. You're going to find out what really happened today. Alright, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today, the information on that Ukrainian Airlines plane that went down in Iran. Now, there have so far been conflicting reports, but from Dubai News, they are reporting that an Iranian missile took down this Ukrainian plane. Now, the reason that they're saying that it's from the Ukrainian missiles is because the location of where the missiles were fired from to hit the American airbase in Iraq is right in the flight path of that. However, I have other sources that are saying that this was not from a missile. This was instead a catastrophic failure. Now, it is a little bit difficult to determine exactly what happened because the Iranians are thus far refusing to hand over that black box so that it can be examined. But the first footage was released of the Iranian officials at the crash site of that Ukrainian plane, and at least 170 people are dead. This Ukrainian Airlines flight was carrying 180 passengers and crew, and it crashed last night just minutes after the takeoff from Tehran. Now, Tootsie said it never made it above 8,000 feet, so this happened very quickly after takeoff. And this comes on the exact same night that Iran fired a dozen missiles at the U.S. base in Iraq. We're going to take a look at information in that in just a moment. Now, it's Al-Hadath Dubai News that is reporting that it was a Ukrainian missile that took down the flight. We're going to also take a look at some pictures from that, and you guys tell me what you think. It doesn't look like a missile hit it to me. But they said that the preliminary images of the plane suggested it's been hit by a missile. The speed data of the Ukrainian plane suddenly stopping means that it exploded. Now, that could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And also, new footage of the Ukrainian plane crashing near Tehran airport is believed to have been hit by an Iranian missile. We're going to take a look at the footage of that plane going down, and you guys tell me if you see a missile. All right, guys, here is that amateur footage of the plane going down. Let's take a look. You can see right there in the center, that bright spot is the plane. That looks like it's going down. Clearly a trail behind it. But there was never footage of anything seen flying into it. It just appears to be on fire, and then it drops out of the sky. Very, very tragic. It's never a good day when we have catastrophic loss of life like this. But if there's at least 170 people that have passed away, then perhaps there are some people on that plane, since there was 180, that could still be alive. But as far as I'm concerned, this footage here does not show a missile hitting this plane and taking it out of the air. Now, here we have a tweet from a Twitter account called JackDeck. This is Breaking Aviation Safety and Accident Incident News. And they are saying that this imagery shows projectile holes in the fuselage and a wing section. So let's take a look at this. Now, there does appear to be holes in there. But if this was a missile, we would expect to see a different type of damage to the outside of the plane. Here, again, we definitely have some holes. But I'm going to say that this damage here could have been from the explosion on the plane itself. If there was perhaps a flock of birds that it flew into, maybe it gummed up the engine and then the engine exploded and there was an explosion outward, then that could be it right there. But we've got one more here, which shows, I can't tell if that's the tail. That looks like the tail. All right, so that does look like something hitting the tail right there as well. I don't know. I mean, an anti-aircraft gun, maybe, something like that. But again, I have sources who were tracking this plane at the time that it went down, and they said that they saw no missile. They saw nothing to indicate that it was taken out of the sky by anything on the ground. Now, this is not specifically ruling out some type of projectile, say, from an individual, like a large, machine gun, something like that. We don't know, but it does look like there is something that hit it from the outside. Those marks don't appear to be coming from the inside out. So I think that we can perhaps maybe speculate on some type of weapon from the ground, but certainly not a missile. Now, this is coming from White Hat. You guys know my source, White Hat, is completely legitimate. I have vetted him. I know that the information he provides is good intel, and from everything he's saying, this plane was not taken down by a missile. Now, I will say this is very strange that this happened in such close proximity to the missile zone. To the airbase itself. This was directly in the flight path of where those missiles were coming from to hit al-Assad airbase. Let's go ahead and take a look at a tweet showing you on a map where that actually is located. All right, so also from JackDeck right here, first of all, this is the flight path itself. So this was only 3 minutes after takeoff. So you can see it takes off right there from Imam Khomeini International Airport, and it made it this far right there. Kind of looks like it was very abrupt, and apparently the pilots didn't try to signal anyone. They did not determine that they stated they were in distress, nothing like that. It was almost immediate, so that right there does look very suspicious. Now, just to show you, here are some additional pictures. Clearly, the wreckage is burning. There does appear to be, some amount of damage. Again, that is the same image of the fuselage or the wing right there. And then here is the engine. So lots of devastation, lots of damage, very, very tragic. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other information. All right, so again, here is that flight path right there. Now, here is the missile launch site. And so you can see clearly Here is the airport. Here is the launch site. It was flying straight towards it. This is the area where it went down. So I can see how people would make this out to be from a missile strike. But you got to ask yourself, what is Iran going to gain from shooting down a Ukrainian plane, someone who's willing to do business there with them, and clearly riling up the Americans pretty quickly after sending a dozen missiles to our airbase in Iraq? I can't determine anything that they would benefit from doing such a thing. Now, that doesn't mean that, it didn't happen. We don't have all the data yet, but from everything I'm being told, this was not a missile strike, although it looks pretty damning. Now, after having said all that and being given the intel that this was not the cause of a rocket, my good friend and fellow researcher TikTok sent over this tweet, and this is a piece that was found at the crash site. Let's go ahead and translate this tweet. It says, a local person took this first image of a piece of water inside a Ukrainian aircraft crash near wherever that is, an envoy that is clearly part of the control of an M8 missile. So, looks like there's a bit lost in the translation. But you can see here, this is clearly not a piece from an airplane. This does look like the tip of a missile. So now moving on to a picture of one of those M8 missiles. It looks a little bit different, but it does have the same type of configuration. This looks a bit smaller. I guess there's no point of reference here, but I would say that they really do look very similar. So if this is a piece that was found at the crash site, it's very compelling evidence to state that this might actually be the fault of a missile. Very, very interesting. Now, just a couple more images sent over by TikTok. Looks like I can't tell if this is in the same location, but this does look very, very similar to the original image. And then right here is what's clearly a missile fully intact, and it also looks very similar to that wreckage that was found there. Apparently, maybe this must be from that other location near the crash site, because they're drawing attention to the fact that that wing folds up just like that. The nose cone does look exactly the same, and then this must be another piece taken from that exact same crash site. Very, very compelling information. Great job, TikTok. Thank you for sending this stuff over. Now we have one more video here, also sent over by TikTok. This is an image of the crash from a different location. Let's go ahead and take a listen. I'm going to go ahead and mute it because there is some music in the background. But it looks like this is a dash cam or perhaps someone just driving down the road. And you can see right there it catches fire and then goes down. And they see it go all the way. And then it hits the ground and there is a tremendous flash. Very, very scary. So I've brought this information to the attention of my people behind the scenes, and they're going to take a look at it, and I think they're probably going to reevaluate their previous information. Okay, so one more thing in regards to this. I am now going to confirm that without a doubt, this plane was shot down. It was not done on purpose. It was an accident. The plane took off an hour late. So the Iranians accidentally mistook it for an American aircraft coming in to attack them. So a bit of a trigger-happy young lieutenant went ahead and shot it down. It was an accident, and it's something that will eventually have to be released. Now, right here, this is an actual breakdown of who passed away on that flight. They were from 7 different countries, 82 Iranians, 63 Canadians, 11 Ukrainians, 10 from Sweden, 4 from Afghanistan, 3 from the UK, and 3 from Germany. So, unfortunately, it was a tragic mistake, but it is good to know that it's not a larger conspiracy. It's not like they're trying to trigger a war. It was simply a mistake. Now, reportedly, the Ukrainian aircraft that was shot down is the pride of the Ukrainian fleet. So the plane itself would have been safe. There should not have been any type of accident on board that would have brought it down. Now, the individual giving me this information has also sent over a picture of themselves on one of these aircrafts, and showing a picture of the outside of it before it took off from the airport. Now, this is not the same flight that was shot down, but this is just to show that the person I'm getting my information from has access to these aircraft, knows them, and can vouch for their safety and for their flight record. I know I've heard some things about, that they're not taken care of as well as U.S. planes are, but they are still very, very well maintained. And without a doubt, this plane was accidentally shot down. All right, so last night there were initially reports of 3 different military bases that were hit. However, it was only 2. It was al-Assad Air Base and Erbil Air Bases that were targeted by Iranian ballistic missiles. Now, it was reported that Camp Taji had also been hit, but that's apparently not the case. It was only al-Assad and Erbil. Now, I do want to stress here that absolutely no American lives were lost. Well, why would that be, you might ask? Well, let's take a look at something. Well, the reason being that the U.S. was actually informed of the imminent attack before the strikes on the U.S. bases even took place. Now, the Iraqi forces actually are the ones who warned of the missile strikes that were about to come, and that was actually initially reported by CNN. So this was a pretty big deal. So why would Iran warn Iraq so that they could then warn the U.S. If they actually wanted to do real damage? Now, the other day, when President Trump was told that the Iraqi parliament had voted to remove the U.S. from their country, he made a statement. He said that we've put a lot of money into those bases there, and that as long as we've paid for them, we're going to continue to use them. So we also know that President Trump doesn't want us to go to war. He doesn't want to be funding these endless wars, and he doesn't want any loss of American life. So I was thinking that if the bases were hit and destroyed, then perhaps that would give us the reasoning to go ahead and leave. It would also give us the reasoning to go ahead and escalate this conflict. However, again, President Trump does not want an escalation. So now we took care of the general in Iraq. And now Iran has responded by shooting missiles at these 2 air bases. No American lives were lost, and President Trump has announced what we are going to do in retaliation. And this morning at 11 a.m., President Trump addressed the nation from the White House, and thank God he has de-escalated. He's announced instead that there will be more sanctions against the Iranian regime following these missile attacks on U.S. bases. Now, as I just stated, the Iranian regime fired off several missiles at U.S. air bases on Tuesday following the funeral of that general. And 2 bases in Iraq were hit. And thankfully, again, no Americans were killed in the attacks. And again, that's because they warned us before they did it. You have to remember how the Iranian regime works. It's all about saving face. So now that they have responded to the attack on the general, basically, it doesn't have to go any farther, and President Trump is smart enough to know that. Well, this morning, he spoke to the American public, surrounded by his top generals, Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Vice President Mike Pence. And he announced that he would instead impose more sanctions on the Iranian regime rather than responding with more violence. And he actually called out Barry in his speech. Pretty stunning, although I've come to expect that from this president. He announced that he would also be asking NATO to become more involved with this issue going on currently in Iran. He said America's strength, both military and economic, is the best deterrent, rather than going in for more violence. Now, I said President Trump called out the former administration, and he is pulling no punches. He said the missiles fired last night at the U.S. were paid for by the funds given to Iran by Barry's administration. Now, when he addressed the nation, he called out the last president for the sham nuke deal that gave Iran $150 billion. $150 billion. He also blasted that former administration for the additional $1.8 billion in cash that he delivered to Iran in unmarked cargo planes on wooden pallets. He said the missiles fired last night were funded by that former administration. And the garbage nuke deal wasn't worth the paper it was written on. And if you'll remember, Barry never required the Iranian leaders to sign the nuke deal. So basically just handed over the money with a promise that they would go ahead and fulfill their promises. So a spit on the hand and a shake. Now, that former administration admitted that the nuke deal wasn't an executive agreement or even a signed document, and the Iranians actually laughed at Barry and fired off ballistic missiles many times, breaching the so-called nuke deal. They shipped 30 tons of yellow cake, that's uranium ore, to a facility in Isfahan last January, which it enriched and could provide material to make those atomic bombs. Well, thank God President Trump has decided to de-escalate this situation and will be imposing those sanctions. This is probably the best thing that we could hope to achieve in this, because I would imagine any other administration would continue to up the ante and people would die, Americans and Iranians would lose their lives, and this way no one has to die. All right, now next, here is that actual passenger manifest from the flight that went down in Iran. We've got lots of different names on here. It's going to take some time to sift through all this data. I would imagine, since it was going between Ukraine and Iran, that there would be both Ukrainian and Iranian passengers on there. But at this point, it's unknown exactly which countries they were from. Just looking at it, it appears to be many, many Iranians. So we're going to have to continue to take a look through this. If anybody gets any information they want to send my way, I will appreciate it, and I'll give you a shout out on the air. All right, next is a very interesting tweet from my friend Justice Time at JusticeTime7. He says, "Dear FBI, Justice Department, Secret Service, Rudy Giuliani, in case you missed it, Greta Van Susteren is a clown in America, sending comms to network bad actors. Call the number. You need a remote access code. Time to stop it." Let's take a look at the tweet itself. So right here, Greta Van Susteren tweeted out, she says, "Just found this, more than 50 years old." Someone asks, "Do you even remember what you did?" So it is a letter from Xavier High School. I'm assuming that is where Greta Van Susteren went to high school. It's dated November 4th, 1969, and it said that Greta received a discipline notice. They hope that this letter will lead you to discuss the matter with your son or daughter. Now, what is interesting about it is that there's a phone number written on it. It's 202-686-6500. That is a Washington, D.C. number. Now, apparently, when you call that number, you're asked to enter a remote access code. Now, of course, I wanted to do my own due diligence, and I did call the number using *67, and someone did answer. So I wasn't asked to enter an access code. Now, maybe that's just because the person that needed to call in has already done that, but I did do some research on the number itself, and it's for a pediatric cardiologist there in Washington, D.C. Now, I'm just showing you this so that you can see that this number is associated with someone. I'm going to ask everybody not to call this number. I'm also blocking out the full name of the doctor because, of course, I wouldn't want anyone to bother this guy, and I wouldn't want anybody to think that I was trying to suggest that they should. So you can do your own research and determine who this person is, but there is something very interesting about this individual that I did want to show you. All right, and that very interesting thing I wanted to show you was that they went to medical school in Tehran. So this is an Iranian pediatric cardiologist, and the information put out by Greta Van Susteren was on the same day as all of this news about Iran was picking up in the news. So I found that very curious. And I just wanted to share you guys that information because if this was some type of secret information, I think it's a pretty big coincidence that the person that Greta Van Susteren doxed on Twitter just happens to be an Iranian doctor. Now next, this is in reference to a different plane that was downed several years ago, but it came out yesterday on the same day that a Ukrainian plane went down in Iran. Now, apparently a whistleblower has come forward revealing that the MH17 tragedy was orchestrated by Poroshenko, the former president of Ukraine, and the British Secret Service. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm sure you'll all remember that Malaysian Airlines Flight 17, MH17, which was shot down on July 17th, 2014 in Donbass of eastern Ukraine, killed all the passengers on board, and was immediately blamed on pro-Russian Donbass volunteer militias fighting against henchmen of the Maidan civil unrest. That is the far-right Azov battalion and the Ukrainian military. Now, the blame was assigned against the Donbass militias with no investigation occurring and many questions remaining unanswered. These questions were now answered by a former Lieutenant Colonel, Vasily Prozorov, of the Ukrainian Security Services, who fled to Russia in a new documentary titled MH17 In Search for the Truth. Now, the whistleblower in the 39-minute documentary completely delegitimizes the findings of the Dutch investigators and world leaders by drawing on classified documents he attained through his own high-ranking position and those close to him, as well as eyewitness accounts, including from those Donbass volunteers. The responsibility for investigating the tragedy was led by a Dutch joint investigation team with the Dutch Security Board, who claimed that MH17 had been taken down by the Donbass volunteers with a Buk surface-to-air missile. Prozorov challenges this assertion and questioned why Malaysia, who owned MH17, was pushed to the periphery of the investigation and the priority was given to the Dutch side. I always thought that was very strange. Why would Malaysia not be allowed to investigate their own airplane crash? Now, this in and of itself is not damning and does not disprove that the Donbass volunteers were not responsible, but it does demonstrate there's a clear agenda when a country with direct interest in the tragedy is pushed aside. Now, it's also very interesting that the Dutch investigators completely disregarded declassified Russian Ministry of Defense information that the missile, which was used to shoot down MH17, was sent to the Lviv region of western Ukraine near the Polish border during the Soviet era, which was the opposite end of the country from Donbass. Prozorov was able to even reveal the serial number of the missile. That would be 8868720. This revelation is complemented by the fact that the Ukrainian military 156 Anti-Aircraft Regiment were operating in Donbass, and they even had Buk vehicles in service in the region. Now, this was also corroborated by two interviewees who served in the regiment, bringing into question why Dutch investigators ignored, again, more critical information. Now, basically, this documentary proves and explains that the alleged Russian Buk movement in Ukraine was actually faked, with a single still photo being used with a picture of a tractor, a trailer, and a Buk vehicle being inserted into the picture. Now, this is a very, very, very interesting situation. Now, what makes it even more insane is that Prozorov proves in the documentary that Lieutenant Colonel Vasily Burba was with two British Secret Service agents on June 22nd, 2014, in the battle zone some weeks prior to the MH17 tragedy. And he says that the British agents in the region plotted together with Ukrainian security services to bring down MH17. All of it was spearheaded by British intelligence. There was no surprise that Englishman Elliot Higgins, a former lingerie retailer who was not studied in politics or journalism, had his obscure blogging elevated into the Bellingcat website with monetary backing from none other than GS's Open Society Foundation, just days before the tragedy. Higgins was promoted to such an extent that he began to closely collaborate with also the Atlantic Council, which Edward Curtins describes as a think tank with deep ties to the U.S. government, NATO, war manufacturers and their allies, and the National Endowment for Democracy, another infamous U.S. organization. Now, we have also heard about the Atlantic Council very recently because of their involvement with Adam Schiff, their specific involvement in Ukraine. This looks to be a bombshell documentary, and I want to see it immediately. Looks like you can go ahead and watch it on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will report to you more about the findings. All right, guys, and finally for today, we're going to take a different turn. Christopher Steele from the Russia collusion hoax was caught lying either before the Senate or the DOJ IG. He has some explaining to do because he lied to either one or the other or both, but either way, he's a liar. One article from Sarah Carter back in 2018 notes that Steele's actions and testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee stated that he was compiling information on candidate Trump long before he was hired by Fusion GPS. Now, it's also been uncovered that Steele told the DOJ that he had not conducted any research on Trump before being hired by Fusion GPS. So those two things stand in stark contrast to each other. So either he was investigating Trump for a long time prior to that, or he began his research right when he was hired by Fusion GPS. Either way, He testified 2 different ways before 2 different important U.S. governmental bodies, and that means that one of those testimonies is a lie. So my question now is, what is going to happen to Christopher Steele? Are they going to take action against him for lying to either Congress or to the DOJ? What do you guys think? I certainly wouldn't mind seeing Christopher Steele hauled before a U.S. court and being brought to justice. As far as I'm concerned, he is a criminal of the highest degree. All right, guys, last thing for today, I just want to go over the rules for the contest. I just hit 185,000 subs the other day, and when I hit 200,000 subs, I am going to give away 2 $100 gift cards, whatever type of gift card you prefer, and I will send it out to the winner. Now, the winner is going to be chosen from 2 different videos. The video between now and then that gets the most likes, and the video between now and then that gets the most views. So if you like, view, watch, and share these videos, you can increase your chances of winning. The winners are going to be chosen from the comment section of each of those videos. So please also do join in on the conversation. And again, the more you like, share, and comment, the more you can have an opportunity to win. So as soon as we get to 200,000 subs, I'm going to choose those 2 winners. They will be announced in a video, and I will need for you to email me at redpill78@protonmail.com, and then we'll go ahead and match up your information, make sure that you are the account that has won, and I will get you that gift card out. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. Just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to support this channel. If you'd like to see some ways that you can support the channel, you can always check the show notes in the pinned comment of this video below. Whether you like, whether you share, whether you make sure that your notifications are on, any way that you support this channel means so much to me. I could not be doing this without you, and I could not do it without your help. Without people like you, this channel would not exist, so thank you so much to everyone for all of their many means of support. Don't forget to check out the merchandise store that is also in the pinned comment, and I will see you guys next time.